Aloha. Due to the pandemic, and because I'm a hospital chaplain and in a at-risk category, I'm coming to you via video so that I may ensure the health and well-being of my church ohana. Mahalo for your understanding and support. Please have compassion for us when we are not enough, grieving, powerless, distrusting, blaming, and fearful. For this is who we have come here to be: loving, unstoppable, empowered, in integrity, spirit-led, in ownership, and transformational. When we acknowledge and integrate our shadow and live from our cue card qualities, we begin the process of lifting the fog of exile. Exile, you might say. To be freed from exile, we must first know that we are in exile. To be in exile means that we have a sense of separation from us and God. God doesn't separate from us. We separate ourselves from God. And in being in that sense of separation, we are in exile. Let me explain it to you this way. Do you remember the garden? You know, the garden. The Garden of Eden. We were there. We were whole and healthy, abundantly prosperous. We had no cares. We had no worries. We were at peace and we were in love. We were in the garden. How about this way? When we come into this world and as children, we know we're the one. We know that we are the one and we are in tune to our oneness. It is the foundation of our knowing. And by the way, I really loved that shirt. I wore it till it was falling off me. As children, we know we're the one. We're cared for. We're nourished. We know it at the core of our being. And I must say that I still have the wonder and curiosity of that little boy. It is my saving grace to this day. Knowing that we're the one is also scriptured in Scripture. In Matthew 5:14-15, Jesus says, "You are indeed the light of the world. A city that is built upon a mountain cannot be hidden. Nor do they light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on a lampstand, so that it gives light to all who are in the house." We are the light of the world. That is our inheritance as being the beloved of God. We are created in the image and likeness of God. We are meant to shine big and bright, not to be hidden under a basket. Also not to go out and say, "Hey, look at me." But to go out and say, "Hey, look at the light. Look at the light." I've affirmed that quite a bit in my life, saying that I am divine. And now when I look in the mirror, before I see the Betty brows and the stubble, I see the light first. Because we're the light of the world. But what happens? What happens? Life happens. We become who we are not. We are conditioned through the good intentions and maybe not so good intentions of parents, of brothers and sisters, of grandparents, of aunties and uncles, of friends, of coaches, of teachers, of our local leaders, of our national leaders, society in general. We are conditioned to believe that we're not enough. We're not tall enough. We're not smart enough. We're not fast enough. We're not big enough. I was blessed growing up in a family where parents were very supportive and never said that I couldn't do anything. Well, of course, if I asked to do something that was stupid, they would say no. However, I was never, if I had an idea or wanted to do something that was beneficial and creative, I was invited to do so. So I was really blessed. However, I had been in classrooms where classmates of mine had been told by teachers that they were stupid. Now, even though that wasn't directed toward me, I got it by osmosis. I was in the room where somebody just like me was told they were stupid. So you begin to wonder, geez, if he or she is, maybe I am too. In high school, I actually had a stutter for many years. And in high school, I was seeing a state speech therapist. Traveling state speech therapist in a bus. And I went out to my appointment, and I sat down, and she told me, because you stutter, you're stupid. I looked at her and got up, and I left, and she comes out and saying, well, we're not done. I just kept on walking, and I went into the principal's office, explained what was going on, and I believe the principal went out and had a chat with this speech therapist. And by the way, when I told my dad, he had a chat with them as well. But we get conditioned, and then we buy into beliefs. We make beliefs and myths about ourselves from this conditioning. And we don't do what is ours to do because of these beliefs. I'm not smart enough. I'm not good enough. I can't do that. Who am I to think I can do that? Who are you to think you can't? You're the light of the world. Who are you to think that you can't? Who gets in the way? We do. Charles Fillmore says, the real struggle is not against an outside adversary, but against our passive acceptance of the notion that you or we are nothing. We believe we're nothing when we know at the core of our understanding that we're the one. We know it. We absolutely know it, yet we're hesitant. We're hesitant to be the one. To reach enlightenment, we must achieve enshadowment. Enshadowment, you say? Well, this is what I call shadow work. And most of you might know that we have a shadow work process right here in the church. We have 5 very talented Q coaches. And the Q process is a method by which we do shadow work. It is a method by we acknowledge and embrace and incorporate our shadow. And we realize that it is not what we are. The process involves learning that there are triggers, and that we get triggered to believe a false belief that we've made up about ourselves. And we learn to understand that although there'll be triggers, we don't need to be triggered. One of my false beliefs is that I'm not important. And this started way back in my young days. Growing up on the coast of Maine, on May Day, we had a tradition in my town where all the boys would make little May baskets with candies in them. And you would go to the neighbors or people in your class, the girls, and you would knock on their door, put the May basket on the porch, and then when they opened the door, you'd run. And the girls were supposed to chase after you and say thank you. Well, I made a lot of May baskets and put them on many porches, but was never chased after. Nor was I invited to quite a few birthday parties either. So after a while, I gained the understanding and made up the belief that I was not important. And even now, if I'm not invited to something, I'll have a moment where I will have that thought. And I will say, sharing is caring, now carry on. because I know I'm important. Our light has a shadow. To cast a light, we must have a shadow. The idea is to acknowledge the shadow, embrace it, integrate it as what it is, not who we've come here to be. Our shadow qualities are actually an affirmation of our Q qualities, who we've come here to be. When we integrate, embrace and integrate our shadow, we can be the light of the world. Our purpose. This is who we've come here to be. Remember, Jesus talked to the 12 at the Last Supper and said, I've done some cool stuff, but you'll do greater things. And by the way, he was speaking to the women in the room, but we don't ever talk about that. Don't get me going. However, he was speaking to all of us, not just the 12. He was saying to all of us that we are here to do the greater things. That is our purpose. Our purpose is to be the expression of the divinity of humanity, to express our divine nature so wonderfully, uniquely, and diversely as our human nature. Our human nature's only obligation is to be the expression of our divine nature. That is our purpose. Imelda Shanklin says, my favorite Unity writer, in God you live and move and have your being. In you, God lives, moves, and must be given expression. Notice the word must. God must be given expression in, through, and as us. That's why we are here. And you know what? You won't get off the planet without being the expression of God. I invite you to do it for a longer period of time than a shorter period of time. And I know I'm living my purpose right now. I know that to be. Being a hospital chaplain has been and always has been my calling. It took me many years to get to here, but I'm living my purpose right now. And sometimes when I began, I had no idea how it would turn out. I had no idea how to get from one end to the other. What I was I was willing to follow guidance and do whatever it took. And I am now living my joy of living. Your joy of living is patiently waiting for you. I invite you to step into it, to discover it, and then live your purpose. Our light and our shadow are like lovers dancing to the song of life. The question is, who is leading? Is your shadow leading your life? Or is your light leading your life? That choice is up to you. I'd like to close with a poem. Garden, oh garden, this fog is thick, I cannot see. My garden, why have you left me? I feel lost, scared, and alone. Woe is me! Woe is me! Wait, with a breath. I now clearly see that this is not the real me. I am a light of the world. That's who I've come here to be. I claim my light, I let it shine big and bright, and it is then the fog lifts, and I see I've never left the garden. Peace be with you.